I'd like to welcome you, Jamie Reed, to
Thank you
my
very
podcast.
much.
Thank you so much for being here today with me.
It's really exciting.
And especially on such a lovely day, like the
Yeah.
sun is shining. And I mean, Jamie, you are the owner, well, co-owner and also co-founder of Reed College.
hmm
And can you just tell us a little bit more about sort of like your role in the college and who are you?
Yeah, for sure. So my role is as you say, co-founder of the school, and I'm head of the voice department and joint head of centre. So I quite a lot. I turn up everywhere basically. But Helen, who is my wife, who is also the co-founder, joint head of centre, she's head of dance. So she is ex-English National Ballet classical dancer. So she heads that department. I head the singing side of things. And Reed College has been around for 13 years, and we are the UK's leading centre for foundation training in the performing arts. So we're a vocational school for people who want to go into it for a career, but we sit at sixth form and foundation level. So that's kind of like the end of secondary school, and then a sort of bridging course from the secondary school age into the university age groups. Because getting into top level vocational training in the UK is just really, really horribly competitive. Um, and it kind of all it's like a reverse effect. So from the industry itself, the casting people that we're all beholden to, if you want to get a job in something, they will tend to look at your CV to see where you trained. And if you trained at one of the top schools that they recognize the name of, you're more likely to get into the audition room to be able to audition for the jobs. So consequently, everybody is auditioning for those schools. And going back 14 years before Helen and I started the school together, we had a local theatre school in the village where we live in West Berkshire in the south of England. And we were running classes for kids Saturdays and evenings and stuff. And we found that there were kids who were from more affluent family backgrounds who were able to afford to come to classes more regularly and do lots of other stuff, that when they auditioned for drama school, just because their family had a bit more money to throw at it, they were likely to be more successful because they'd had more experience. And so we were seeing kids that we were working with who we absolutely just thought had so much potential, and we loved what they had to offer, but they weren't from that kind of background and they couldn't manage to make it work. And then when they were auditioning, they were up against these kids who'd had every possible experience. So we started the college course with 6 students who we knew a little bit already, and we went, we think if we could work with these guys for 1 year, we could maybe get them to scholarship levels to get them into those schools. And we did. So then we thought, okay, well, that worked. Let's try a few more. And it kind of grew from there over the 13
All
years.
six of them
So
got
we're
in.
actually, yeah. And that was our first year group. And then since then, over the last 13 years, about 97% of all of the students we've ever worked with have all gotten into at least one of the top flight schools when they've gone on from us. And there's now 50, well, there's between 50 and 60 in the cohort overall now, but they're on lots of different courses. So we have a 1 year foundation in musical theatre and a 1 year foundation in acting. We have a 2 year sixth form course in musical theatre and a 2 year sixth form course in acting. So there's 6 different course strands through the school now. And also, we're a registered charity, so we have a national outreach and inclusion program that goes out all over the country and engages with about 2,500 to 3,000 young people from underrepresented and disadvantaged backgrounds all over the country, and trying to get them involved as well. So it's a really cool thing to be part of.
You know what? I mean, I've known you for a while, but I actually never knew all of that information. That's incredible. It's like, take my money. Like,
Yeah, I mean it's a really cool thing to be part of, and we have an amazing team of people that we work with. A lot of them have been with us since the beginning, so we have just amazingly cool tutors who we get to work with, and people who just support the work and help us. So we have alumni students who are now working with us. So our outreach coordinator, who runs all the outreach program for us across the country, actually trained with us about 6 or 7 years ago and went on to further training. And we've got students who've gone off to every major drama school and every major dance college you can think of. And it's just great. It's amazing. We're in regular contact with about 200 or so of our graduates who are part of our alumni network. One of them has just started producing his own work, and he now has quite a major production. It's his first headline production that's opening quite soon with an actor called Shane Ritchie, who was in some of the soap operas over here. So there's people doing all kinds of really cool work, and we got to be a little part of the beginning of their journey and just encourage them in the right direction and help to support them. So yeah, it's awesome.
That's amazing because I think, especially in like music in general, there is a huge gap between, whether they come from a household that can afford to have like regular classes and whether they
Right.
come from a household who maybe can't afford regular classes.
Yeah.
And there's a huge disparity when you go into even, like you're saying, at sixth form level, which, I mean, how old are they in the UK when they go into sixth form?
So sixth form, they are 16, between 16 and 18 years old. So it's the equivalent in the school years in the UK. It's year 12 and 13. Sixth form is a kind of old school term that's left over from when I was at school, where the years started again. You went to secondary school and you became a first year, and then you did all the way through. And then by the time you got to your sixth year at secondary school, that was sixth form. But then they abolished that system. But somehow it's still called that. Like that name still exists, even though it's now years 12 and 13.
So this idea of sixth form, would you say that people then tend to go, would they go to a sixth form like yourselves rather than, and go to a vocational sixth form if they want to go into musical theatre, rather than sort of like continuing down the track of finishing the school that they're at?
Yeah. So it gives them the opportunity. So they get the qualifications from us that are the equivalent to 3A levels, which is what you would get in a regular school. But they do it all vocationally and practically through performance training. So it means that between the ages of 16 and 18 for 2 years, they're working at elite level in vocational training. They're in classes from 8:30 in the morning till 6:30 in the evening, in honing their practical skills, but also learning about what's it like to be a self-employed performer. What is this industry that I'm going into? What's the history of the business, and what all the different major practitioners and all of that kind of stuff. So they come out with in the system over here, what's called the UCAS points that they need for university. So the kind of the scores that you need from a secondary school to be able to apply to a degree course. But instead of doing it in academic subjects, they're doing it practically and vocationally and learning by doing. So they are just much more ready for that moment of audition, stepping into the room for a 3-year degree level course or equivalent. And it means that we get to work. So when we started 13 years ago, it was about underprivileged kids who didn't have that family financial background, but quite quickly it also became about underrepresented young people who don't see themselves on stage or screen, whether that's through ability, disability, or ethnic background, or whatever the thing is, where you go, I don't see someone like me, so therefore this industry isn't for me. And we wanted to go, no, actually, you know what, it is, and it should be, and maybe it isn't yet, but let's change the world a bit together so we can work with those guys on their skills and get them up to a point where they can confidently walk into an audition room and go, you might not know that you want me, but you want me and you need me, and here's all the skills that I have. So it kind of just gets everyone to that level playing field, and we can cram into 2 years what maybe people have missed out on through no fault of their own over the previous 16 that they've been around.
That's amazing. And do you often get kids then finishing the sixth form and then going straight into the foundation course? Like, is that sort of the natural progression, so that they sort of almost do
No.
3 years with you guys first, or would you?
No, so the foundation course really kind of does the same thing but quicker for kids who've done their sixth form years at school somewhere and they've completed that bit of their training, and then they've tried to audition for a degree course and gone, oh, how do I do this? I can't afford to go on, or I can't get through the door, or what happens? So they can come and do an intensive 1-year program with us at that age. So they don't have to do the qualification bit by that point because they've done that, and we can just get their skills up. So the sixth form guys go straight onto the degree courses when they leave us. And the same with the foundation students. So really, by the time they get into their second year of sixth form, they're working alongside the foundation students, and they all go on the same journey at that point.
Okay. And then, because I've noticed there's quite a lot of the colleges now are kind of, well, they've all got foundation courses. Do you suggest that something, fresh 18-year-old just come out of school, I'm like, I want to be an MT person, or I want to be an actor. Would you then suggest that someone does a foundation course before they move on to a degree?
So I
Also
think
audition
it's,
at the same time.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that, where they audition for the degree courses and the foundation courses to see what's what. I think the advantage with a foundation course is that there is, for the degree courses, there's quite a high dropout rate because people are taking what has been a hobby and turning it into their career. So it's the fun thing they did outside of school, and there's no pressure, and it's great fun, and what have you, even with all the exams and the performances and stuff. And then suddenly you turn it into your career and go, right, you better take this seriously. And you're in classes all day, every day. And to begin with, for the first 2 weeks, there's this lovely optimistic sense of everyone like, oh man, I'm living the dream. This is the best thing ever. And then we get what we call October syndrome, where by October, everyone is like, I can't walk, I can't move, I'm exhausted. What is my life? What's happening? And if they've been through that foundation training, we can take care of them. So speaking from Reed's point of view, we only take 15 on our foundation course, and we only take 16 on our sixth form, which is 8 first years, 8 second years. So they're small cohorts, which means we can really take care of them. We can nurture them. We have a really big ethos of pastoral care as well. So we have a welfare officer, a counselor, a physiotherapist, a massage therapist, so that along their way, they can figure out who the hell they are actually and get the help with that stuff. And the mental health support and the physical health support. So by the time they get to the degree courses, they're resilient, they're ready, they're part of the way there. And we've been able to hold their hand much more than you can on a degree course where you've got like 600 people in the school. So consequently, I think the dropout rate is lower. When people get into first year of a degree course, they already know what they're in for, and they're much less likely to get halfway and go, I can't cope with this, because it's huge. It's a massive step, taking something that has been your hobby for fun and turning it into something that becomes your career, and you have to get quite academic and quite rigorous and quite serious about. And so it means we can support them better in that way, really. And also with the foundation training, for a lot of the parents of these kids, we talk about it, we borrow some of the terms from Harry Potter, because it is a bit like kind of being born to Muggle parents and finding out you're a wizard, because they're like, what is this thing you want to do? How do you do it? And what the hell is happening to my child? And so for a lot of the parents, if they're not from a performing arts background or they don't know anything about it, it's an absolute minefield to go, what are all these courses and why the hell do they cost so much money, and what is going on? And there are lots of universities in the UK, like academic universities, who now say, oh, well, we do a degree in musical theatre, but actually they really don't. They do a degree in the academic side of musical theatre. You can study it, but you're not going to come out of that degree course as a performer. So there's a whole minefield for parents that also going through foundation training, because we're not attached to any of the 3-year schools. We're in our own little bubble. We have great relationships with all of them. So they come in and run auditions with us, and they do Q&As and master classes. So we can advise the students and their parents, actually, this course is going to suit you because that course maybe isn't, because this is where you're going to get the finance to do that. This is how you're going to fundraise. So we can get them ready in a much more holistic sense. Otherwise, people go, I want to train in musical theatre, and the schools that they audition at are the ones with the biggest marketing budget because they're easier to find on Google. And so people then audition for the wrong place because they don't have the wherewithal to do that research, and that's fine. That's not their fault. But recognizing that and going, I don't know what this is, I just found somewhere and it looks cool. That's not necessarily a great reason to train there.
Not quite. It's got a nice website, so I'll go there.
Yeah, website's nice. Their Instagram feed is cool.
Really pretty.
Yeah, it's mostly that. The people on Instagram look cute, and TikTok was fun. Like that's the why people do it.
Was there last week. I'll go there.
I'll go there. He's great.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. He's done all right.
So I think that's quite interesting, because I had a couple of kids last year who were, they went over to England, and they were definitely ones that had more than enough money to do all the summer schools and all that sort of stuff. And they said,
yeah,
I'm not going to audition for a foundation course. And I said, I think it might be quite a good idea to hedge your bets and audition for a foundation course. And being a fresh-faced 17-year-old, she kind of didn't get into any of the unis. And I said, but that's often not based on your ability. That's also based on, the cast, what everyone's looking, they've also got to build a team as well.
Yeah.
Because you're with these people for 3 or 4 years. You've also got to get on. They've got to look at their casting and how many girls, how many boys. And, she just couldn't quite understand that kind of, the whole concept of
exactly. And I think that's right. The idea of casting the year groups and stuff, we speak to our students part of building up their resilience, we talk to them about separating you, the person, from you, the product. So the school isn't rejecting you. They're not saying you're a horrible person, we don't like you. It feels like that. They're saying you're a Mars bar, but I want to buy a Snickers. I don't hate Mars bars. I was just here. I came to the shop for a Snickers, and you're a Mars bar. You know,
Yeah.
I don't hate you because you're a Mars bar. I just don't want to buy this product right now. And separating that idea of going, as you were saying, the casting of the year as well. They've got in mind their third year shows. They know what the shows are that they've got the rights for and who do they want to cast in those shows. And also, if they take a bunch of people with the same skill set who look the same, they're going to leave the college and get into competition with each other. And each college makes its name on getting its graduates agents and work. So they want everybody looking different so that they have a spread of casting brackets. And that's true to some extent for us as well, is that we want to try and balance gender, ethnic backgrounds, whatever the different casting bracket things are. We want to make sure that people aren't competing with one another, and also that we're creating, as far as we possibly can, a diverse, balanced, interesting year group of people who can learn from each other. Because also, if everybody's the same, nobody has anything new to say. So it's kind of nice to get different faces and different people and different backgrounds and different life experience in the room, because then there's something really exciting to work with there.
That was something that really I didn't understand at all when I auditioned. I just thought, I'm not good enough. And I think that's a really important point to take home, is that it's nothing. They want you to be, or when you're auditioning someone, you want them to be right for you,
Yeah,
don't you?
we're
You want them
absolutely
to
on your
be the
side.
answer.
Yeah, we really do, because there's nothing worse than an audition day of sitting through people doing dreadfully. So we absolutely want you all to be good. We're on your side 100%. We're like, come on, give us your best shot here, because otherwise, if you feel like you bought a ticket to the worst show in the world, you know.
I mean, I definitely sometimes I feel sorry for you having to listen. She used to be mine for the last 2 years on repeat.
Before that, it was Pulled. Everybody sang Pulled from the Addams Family on
Oh
repeat.
God, I can
And then it was
imagine.
She Used to Be Mine. Also, weirdly, I don't know why, but Worst Things I Could Do from Greece, which is literally as old as me. That show came out, the movie came out the day I was born. On the 23rd of November 1978 is when Grease came
Wow.
out. And since that time, everybody sings Worst Things I Could Do at every audition round. And I don't understand it. I'm like, it's so old now. Maybe it became fresh again because it's so old everyone forgot it. It's just I was there to begin with.
The- it's funny, isn't it? It's like these trends come around. I think one reason could be that there was a TikTok thing of singing "Hopelessly Devoted." Have
Oh,
you had
okay.
people this year singing lots of "Hopelessly Devoted"?
Yeah, we've had at least two.
And then it's also in the musical theatre anthology
Yeah.
for belters.
Yeah, the anthology books, we hear the contents of the anthology books a lot as well, but that's fine. For us, like, it's great when people bring in something really original and something really different, and that does enliven the room, and that's really exciting. But for me, so our audition process at Reed, again, we try to take a really holistic approach to the person, because I was somebody, when I was working in the industry as a performer, I hated the auditions where you felt like a number. In fact, I left some. I wasn't that stroppy, but I was just like, there's literally no point in me being here. Do you know what I mean? I have a number stuck on my chest. I'm not a cow. The end. That's all I have for you. I won't be, it didn't interest me. So with our audition process for Reed, again, we have small numbers. We take 20 odd people in an audition round. That's it, so that we can get to know them. They spend the day with our student council, so they can actually talk to student members rather than being sold out by members of the marketing or admissions or whatever. They can spend a day with students. They get to know the place. They get a whole coaching day. So they have a ballet class, they have a jazz class, they have an acting workshop. When they sing their song, I'll coach them on it and work with them and get a sense of what they're like to work with, because also that's really important. As you might come into an audition room and not be really well prepared, but you might have something in you that you didn't know was there. And that's what I'm interested, because if somebody comes in and they're really well prepared, but you can't get them any further than they already are, then you're stuck, right? So people bring in whatever songs they bring in, and then you can kind of work with them a bit and go, okay, what do you have inside your voice? And often, the form, like, often I'm just making them what for them feels like I'm asking them to make silly noises. I'm just like,
Yeah.
can you cheer? Can you scream? Can you puppy dog whine? Can you sob? Can you be Santa Claus or whatever? And then they're like, what is wrong with this man here? But then I can from that I can hear I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You can move your larynx, or you can sing higher than you think, or you can access your thick folds or your belt or whatever. They just don't know how to do it yet, and those are the great people to work with. My favorite ones are the people who walk in the room and go, I. I'm not really a singer. I can't sing. And for me, always say to them, it's really corny, but I'm like, you know what? The most important word in the English language is yet. At the end of any sentence, put comma yet. And then they get into the habit of doing it, and they're like, I don't really know this song. And then I just look at them, and they're like, yet. Good. There we go. Now we can fix it. And I love those guys. That's the most fun because you can. It's the biggest gift I think we have as voice teachers is to literally give someone access to their voice and go, you have this freedom and this ability to communicate in a way that maybe you didn't realize that you had. And how cool is that to be able to give someone that opportunity to find that?
You're so nervous when you walk in the room. Of course, you're not going to do your best job. I suppose at that point, it becomes about how good you are at hiding it all and auditioning, really.
Yeah, an audition technique is part of that, of going, actually, can I manage my nerves? You know, can I, whatever your access to it is, I use a lot of mindfulness with the students of going, actually, can I find my breath and can I find my body and can I slow my heart rate down? And if nobody's ever told you that stuff, you're like, oh, I can sing this song with my coach in the studio where I'm safe and comfy. And then, as you say, you turn up in a room that you've never been into with a bunch of random people you've never met. And some of the drama schools still have the system where you stand up and sing in front of everybody else who's auditioning as well, which I think is horrible. You know, I would find that hard. So it's
scary thing ever to stand in front of the other people that you've heard.
yeah.
And I Z, of course, so I was always like at the end of everything. So it's or
Right.
S even. So it like
Oh, there you go.
you get to sing right at the end and you hear everyone else and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm not as good as that.
She's really good and she's really good. And
Yeah, exactly.
the last 14 people all sang the same song that I have.
Speaking of singing, and we just said about songs that you don't really care too much about what people bring in. What are you guys looking for then? So I'm talking about the foundation level now, because I know sixth form, that's another kettle of fish. I suppose foundation, you're looking for, some kids that are probably had a bit more training, had a bit more experience. But what are you looking for in their singing portion? Because usually auditions have 3 different parts in musical theatre of singing, dancing, and acting.
Yep.
In the singing part, what are you guys specifically looking for? Are you thinking about just the quality of the voice, or are you looking for other things?
So I think the 2 top things for me, funnily enough, and nothing necessarily to do with the actual sound, although that comes with it. I think for me, the trainability, the approach to learning, and how playful you are is so important. And the acting through song. Have you remembered that actually this is a monologue that happens to be done to music? Are you telling the story? Are you engaged with it? Those are the 2 things that will convert an okay audition into an absolute barnstormer for me. But also because we take a balance of skill sets, there might be a student who's absolutely aced it in the dance auditions, who's scored really, really well there. And so for that person, I'm going, can I get you in tune? Can we work together? Are you going to be fun to work with? That's fine. On the other hand, somebody might have not done very well in the dance audition, and singing is from their application form clearly their strength. So that person's I'm going to be looking for something different. They're going to need to have a big old voice in there that I can see, yeah, you've definitely got a clear casting there. You're a terrific legit soprano, or you're amazing bass baritone, or you've got an incredible belt, or so whatever it is. I want to kind of see, in that student, it's about, come on, ace it. Show me everything you've got. Yeah. Whereas for other students who maybe are first study dancers and are much more nervous around their singing, I'll always say to them at the beginning of the audition day, just try and relax, try and have fun, and if you get it wrong, that's my problem, not yours, because I want to see if I can fix it. And so let me fix it. That's all I need to see. So it's a little different from one person to the other, but personality and connection is just everything to me. If someone comes in a room and they're fun and they're polite and they look like they're going to be nice to work with, great, amazing. I love that. So even when you're really nervous, you have to find, again, one of the things we say to our students is the minute you walk in the building for your audition, put the product on. Okay. If the person is nervous, if you had a stressful journey and you're not sure if you've remembered your sheet music and you're running a bit late and you're really nervous, you kind of have to leave that in your bag with your shoes, right? And you've just got to come into the room and go, this is the product that I can present. because actually it's always really interesting. I sit in on some of the dance auditions, and I love, you get these people doing beautiful technical exercises across the room, doing kicks from the corner or something, and they're really placed and they've got and then they get to the other side and they just let go of all of it and flump against the wall, and you're like, oh no, you broke it, now you've given the game away. Whereas actually for somebody else, maybe they don't have all that technique, but they got some real presence to them, and you're like, good, you belong on a stage because you have that kind of sense of oomph to you, that sense of presence. So when you come in the audition room to sing, smile, say hi, greet everybody. For me, one of the most important people in the room as well is the pianist, and people tend to forget if there's a group of people behind a table and someone else behind a piano, which there is at the audition for Reed. People will come and say hi to the people behind the table, thrust the music at the person behind the piano, and then crack on. And I'm like, no, she's on the panel. She's really good. She's on the panel. She's part of this process and has the ability to help you ace your audition. So say hi to everyone, be friendly, talk through your sheet music with the pianist, make sure that they're going to do what you expect that they're going to do. Because that's the other thing as well, is that people feel under pressure. I've got to rush through this, just get on with it and sing. And actually talk through your tempos, make sure you know your cuts, make sure you can explain to the pianist exactly what you want, make sure the music's in the key that you've rehearsed it in, because for a lot of people, they rehearse with a backing track and then just download something from musicnotes.com or Scribed or some pirate site somewhere, and then the pianist starts playing and they're like, we've had people say, I mean any number of people go, oh excuse me, you're playing it in the wrong key. The pianist is like, no, I'm playing it in the right key, you brought the wrong key. Because they don't have the experience, they don't have the musical experience.
People say that to the pianist, you're playing it in the wrong key,
you're playing it wrong, no, you brought the wrong thing.
Wow.
But
I would have thought that would be kind of like level one would just be, before an audition, have a session with the pianist to play through the stuff that's going to be played in the room.
But people often don't. They often don't have, also they often don't have someone to tell them that, Nobody said, actually, this song could be in a different key. People are like, whoa, what are you talking about? So, or a different arrangement of it or something. We've had some of the other comedy ones we've had handwritten scores that have just been written out with a pencil that you can hardly read. That's always fun. We've had songs that are like 12 or 13 pages long that are not taped together or in a folder. They're just 12 or 13 loose pieces of A4 that they kind of hand, hopefully, to the pianist. And it depends who you get. So one of our vocal teachers, who's an incredible accompanist, Stefan, he's very kind, and he'll sort of nod politely and try and spread it out on the top of the piano and do his very best. And then at the end, when the person has left, he's like, that was a disaster. Why did they do that? Oh my God. And then Ellie, who I adore, Ellie's another of our singing teachers. She's the associate musical director for Six in the West End, and she takes no prisoners. So if you come in with untaped music, she's like, why didn't you tape it? Go and find a folder somewhere around the building. So now the student council members know that if a student is sat there waiting for their audition and they have loose leaf pieces of paper there, then the student council members will say, quick, I've got a spare folder for you here. Put your music in your folder before you go in. They're really cute. They take care of them to make sure they're sorted. But people do that all the time.
But as you say, if these people, I mean, a lot of them maybe have never had a singing lesson before. They've decided this is what they want to do because they've gone to community theatre. And that's why I would always suggest to people to go to the open days of the courses that you want to go to. Or, a lot of the colleges have, a mock audition day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you go along and then you learn all of like the what to do's, what not to do's. And then what would you say would be, okay, so you've said probably the most important thing for you above everything would probably be attitude, right?
Right.
As you're, can I work with this person? Can this person fit within a college setting?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Often not told to young performers, is it?
No, it isn't. And I think people think it's all about the song. I've got to get this song right when I come into the room, or I've got to get the dance right. And actually, yeah, of course you have. It's great if you do. But if you make some mistakes, but you're nice, that's awesome. That's fine. Everybody makes mistakes. Just be nice, because we want to work with you. We want to have fun with you, and we want to make sure it's tough. I'm not going to lie. Doing this kind of training and getting ready for this career is tough. So being a nice person and having nice people around you and being able to build relationships and foster communication in that kind of way is the number one most important skill that you have when you get into the industry, because actually everyone comes out of drama school with a certain skill set, and if people go, oh, you know what, he was really nice to work with, let's get him in,
Yeah.
That's going to happen all the time, rather than, oh, that person was amazing, but also awful. That's that's not so easy to work with.
Acting is often something that maybe a lot of singers or a lot of dancers haven't had much experience with. I mean, I don't know a lot of people that kind of just come from an acting background as an 18-year-old. Would you say with like monologue decisions, do you have do they have to use a monologue when they come into an audition with you?
That is about finding 2 minutes of a published play that really tell us something about you. So don't play someone who's super old. Don't play someone who's in a different casting range than you. Don't play too far away from yourself. We don't want to hear an accent or a funny voice. We want to get to know you a little bit and go, what kind of actor, what's your theatre? What's relevant for you right now? What grabs your attention and goes, that person and me, we have something in common, and that's a story I can tell. So that's kind of what we want to see from that, really.
That's amazing. And would you say that's something that's quite like normal, I suppose, in other schools as well?
Because you're not auditioning for a role, you're auditioning for a place, and the place is for you. So actually the person we want to get to know is you. Can you and can you look comfortable on stage and just be? Because sometimes if people have got a speech that's rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, it doesn't look comfortable. It actually looks over rehearsed. And if you then try and break, because again, we'll coach them in the audition and go, cool, what about trying it this way? Or have you ever thought of this? And for the people who are less locked into it, they're like, oh yeah, okay, let's try that and see. And actually, if it's really locked into your body and your brain, this is how I do the acting, then you can't make that jump necessarily. But also, you were saying about the Shakespeare thing. So obviously, because we have an acting program as well, so for the actors, they have to bring their Shakespeare. And sometimes a musical theatre student, for their monologue, will bring a Shakespeare. And the thing with that, you were saying about being a New Zealander. So we have this idea in our head of like the Royal Shakespeare Company where everybody speaks like this. And it's Shakespeare was a Brummie, he probably had a bit of a Brummie accent. He was from the Midlands. And the players at the time definitely wouldn't have spoken like that. It's the people from the 1950s where the early recordings were done of Laurence Olivier and so on that we've got that idea in our head. So if you bring a Shakespeare, cool, bring a Shakespeare, figure out what they're talking about line by line. What does this guy mean? Why is he saying this? Why is she saying that? And then you just do it as you. You just tell that story. The words are different, but just tell it as you. Like what in your accent, in your age range, in your moment now, what is this story? Because that's all the job is. It's storytelling. How can I communicate? How can I make the audience feel this? And putting on a really posh accent and pretending to be 40 is not it. Unless you're posh and 40.
Unless you're posh and 40. You go Shakespeare, and I think a lot of people, oh God, I think I took Portia in for years. And like,
Yeah.
no one ever told me. I was like way too young for Portia. Portia's not an 18-year-old young woman,
No.
She's old. And, or Cleopatra and things like that,
There's now a really handy website called shakespearemonologues.org where it breaks down all of the major speeches in all of Shakespeare's plays by age range and gender, which is brilliant. So you can, the internet, imagine, Zoe, if we'd had the internet when we were young. Like, this was a different thing, right?
But this, honestly, I remember like finding YouTube when I was in like my second year at university, and I'd never heard of it before, and I watched one bootleg of Hairspray, like the opening song, because that's what we were doing at the school at the time.
Yeah.
It used up my internet bandwidth for the month.
That's it. Yeah, I remember that. Do you remember when the internet used to yell at you when you switched it on as well and do that ba-dong, ba-dong thing? And you're like, what is that?
I know. And then you couldn't call anybody anymore.
No, that was it. Yeah, that was the phone line. Because that's the other thing people tend to be scared of. I always think legit is the musical theatre equivalent of Shakespeare, where people are like, oh God, legit, I'm terrified of that. Because mostly, not always, but mostly people come in and they're really happy to, kind of belt out a Pasek and Paul contemporary piece, or, Shaman and Whitman or Scott Allen or whatever. And then you go, cool, what about Cole Porter? And they're like, oh, I'm terrified of that stuff because isn't it like opera? And you go, well, maybe a bit. But so that side of things at the audition, we ask for a contemp and a legit, two contrasting songs, which is not because we want to hear you do both perfectly. We want to hear you do one really well and have a really good bash at the other one, and then we can help you with it. That's fine. But don't try and cheat and go, I found a pre-65 song, but it's a belter, so I can sing exactly the same way as I did in my other song, because then there's no contrast. People do that a lot. Like, I've found two songs from two different time periods that sound exactly the same. I've won. And we're like, no, you haven't won.
Just take Disney from like 1950, like
Yeah.
think a little bit more outside the box.
Yeah, exactly. And there are resources online. I'm trying to think of the names of any of them now, but there are some resources online of helping you to find that rep. But I don't think anything does that better than actually just finding a suitably qualified vocal coach or musical director and going, tell me about the stuff that I don't know. Because, and again, it's fine. Most people will sing from the Rodgers and Hammerstein songbook because everybody knows the old Rodgers and Hammerstein Technicolor movies from the 60s, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine. Because it is a finite pool. You're looking for music from before 1965, and nobody is writing new songs before 1965. So it's a finite pool of repertoire. But there is really lovely stuff out there if you go looking for it that maybe you haven't heard of before, and that's nice as well.
I mean, obviously, and there's dancing as well. I assume that's the same sort of thing again, because we've sort of said for like each of the areas of musical theatre, it's mainly about, it's not about doing the best out of the entire group. It's, are you a nice person? Are you easy to work with?
Yeah.
And what are you like when you can't necessarily do something right at that time?
Right, exactly that. And can we, their classes, the audition classes, there's a teacher there and they're teaching you stuff. Do you pick stuff up? Can you make the changes? If somebody says, can you turn out more? Can you pull up more? Can you correct your posture in this way? Can you do those things? Can you be adaptable to it? So yeah, really the same again. There is, I guess, also, I suppose the thing with dance is there is also to some extent the facility in your body. There is a slightly more of a limitation there in the sense that if your body just doesn't have the facility to move in that way, if you have very tight hip rotation or a really arched spine or a really noticeable scoliosis or something, that's going to be harder to work with. It's not impossible, but it's going to be harder to work with, so you better ace everything else, basically. But that's not very many people. And also, I don't want that to put people off, because also some people have, we had one performer a couple of years ago who was with us who was just, it was one of the best auditions I've ever seen, and I've told her that as well. Because she had emailed us and said, I danced throughout my teenage years. Through a degenerative disease, I now am a wheelchair user. I'm not sure that there's any point in me auditioning. What do you think? And we kind of went, why not? Why shouldn't, Glinda or Tracy and Hairspray, why shouldn't any of these people be wheelchair users? It doesn't say that they're not.
Well, look at Oklahoma, wasn't it? She won the Tony Award for that.
Right.
As a wheelchair user.
So we kind of went, okay, cool. Rather than coming to do the audition process, the dance classes, which will show us what you can't do, we want you to prepare a dance class and a routine that shows us what you can do. So we'll just change the audition in that sense for you. So she came in and she did the most beautiful piece of choreography that had all of us like, it was so well thought through and so beautifully put together, and she'd made it herself. And she just did this beautiful piece of choreography where we went, okay, yeah, we could work there dance-wise. That's new, but that's fascinating. And then she came in to sing, and funny enough, she sang She Used to Be Mine. And she came in to begin with, and she sang it really safely. She was gone, but and I could see she was terrified. And I was like, okay, she doesn't class herself as a singer, that's okay. So I had a chat with her and went, how much singing have you done? She's like, not much for ages. And I went, have you done much since you've been in the chair, since that's been part of your life? And she's like, no, not really. I went, okay, let's talk about your posture when you're sitting. Let's do some stuff. And we played for a minute. And then the thing that clicked, and it still brings a lump to my throat now, I was like, this is the story of somebody who is remembering who they used to be, who is angry with life at putting them in the position they're in. I just want you to get angry, and I want you to yell and shout before you sing the song, and I want you to get angry. And she sat there, and it was still a little held, and then she had a bit of a shout, and she had a bit of a yell, and then she started singing this song, and you could see the moment she opened her mouth, just behind her eyes, she was like, who the hell is singing this? Because it sure as hell isn't me. And something just changed, and we had to take a solid 15-minute break after the audition to recover ourselves, because there wasn't anyone in the room who wasn't like broken by it. It was incredible. And just giving someone in an audition that opportunity to go, show us what you can do, and that's fine. And if that bit of you is there, and if you're fearless enough to go, screw it, I'm going to leave my pride on the floor and just do this thing, it was amazing. It was astonishing, and we were thrilled to accept her into the college and work with her. She was brilliant. And it's still one of the standout auditions for me. It was amazing.
That's fantastic. Oh, that must have been, and especially that moment for her as well, where she could just, especially a song like that, where she could remember and, just let all of that out. That just must have been,
Yeah,
wow, it's
it was
very
catharsis.
therapeutic. Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
it was incredible. I loved it.
So, I mean, Jamie, there's so much information. Oh my goodness me, about like all the things. But I think, really the takeaway is what's the most important. What would you say is the most important thing over absolutely everything? Because this really comes down to singing, dancing, and acting. They're three completely different skills that
Yep.
we as MT performers have to do together at the same time. What would you say when people are coming into the audition? They're a bit nervous. What would be the most important thing that you're looking for?
So we can break it down into three short things. It's really easy. Be prepared, be you, be nice. Simple as that. Do your homework, be prepared, be yourself, be open, and just enjoy yourself. Have a nice time and
Thank you
things.
so much, Jamie, for taking the time to be here with me today. It's been honestly, that sounds like the coolest course, and it sounds absolutely amazing. I think all of your courses, and I think that sometimes we can get so bogged down in, am I doing this right? Is this correct? And we forget that sense of, okay, it's actually about a character. This was a real person, or this is supposed to be a real person, and I've got to find their sense of excitement and energy and emotion as
Yeah.
well. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, have a lovely rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, Zoe. Nice to see you.
Thank you.